Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi. Zevachim Daf Chafhei. We begin at the Mishnah, which is 12 lines off the top of the Amud. So now we're on to Kabbalas Hadam, where the Kohen is going to collect the blood of the behemoth into the Kli Sharis. And what happened? Before he had a chance to collect the dam in the Kli Sharis, nishbach hadam al ritzba. So the blood came squirting out of the animal straight onto the floor. V'asafai, and the Kohen collected it back into the Kli, pasul. It cannot be used for zrika. Why? As we're going to see in a minute. The Kabbalah need to be directly from the animal into the Kli Sharis. However, if it landed on the floor first, it disqualifies the dam. Tana Rabbanan, we're going to the Brisa. V'lokach hakohen HaMashiach midam apar. So the Kohen will take the blood of the par. We learn not any blood works. It has to be, the main, primary blood of the animal, the part that sustains his life. It has to be the life force of the animal. Basically, that's what's happening. You're taking the blood which represents the life of the animal, bring makriv on the mizbeach as an atonement for the person. So it needs to be midam hanefesh, the life blood, but not just plain blood that you would squeeze out of the skin, out of the v'lo midam ha'or, the blood which comes off which is squeezed out of the hide, v'lo midam hatamtzis, or blood which is squeezed or dripped out of the flesh of the animal, has to come squirting out. That's considered dam hanefesh, which qualifies for Kabbalah and Zrika. Further, midam apar means dam mehapari kablenu. He must collect the dam directly from the par, without any intermediaries. Says the Gemara, who's to say that midam hapar means dam mehapar? Perhaps it means literally midam, part of the blood of the animal, midam hapar. It can't be so, says the Gemara. Because if you'll tell me, midam hapar means literally kidduchsiv, as per the literal meaning of the words. Midam hapar, from the dam, part of the dam. Midam means afilu miktas dam, even part of it. That's all it's saying, part of the blood. Well, that's incorrect, because we know that you're meant to be mekabel the entire dam hanefesh, not just part of it. V'amar Rav Yudah Marav hatzroichet, after the shchita, how does the Kabbalah happen? Tzorach she'ikabel is called dam shel par. He must collect the entire dam hanefesh supply of the parshanut-torah-comment. V'es kol dam yishbech, the entire supply. Apparently, the words midam apar don't mean to say part of the blood. Ella, rather, midam apar means the entire supply. And what does it mean, midam hapar? You remove the mem of the word midam, attach it to the next word. Instead of hapar, you add the mem. Now it reads mehapar, and it reads dam mehapar. You must collect the blood directly from the par. It's a drasha. Ella midam apar means dam mehapar yikablanu. It must collect it directly from the par without any interruption. Because Savar, he holds goyrin, you can cut away a letter, umeisifin, and add it to the next letter, reduction, and learn it like that. So we've proven that it can't mean literally part of it, midam apar. So there must be some deeper meaning here. And by rearranging the words, we have the words dam mehapari kablenu, hence the halacha in the Mishnah. Unless the Kabbalah was done directly from the neck of the animal, it's possible. As we just said, tzorach she'ikabel is called dam shel par. He's meant to collect the entire supply. Well, this is l'chatchila, obviously, right? That's the way it should be. Even if he doesn't, he's still yaitzi, but that's the way it should be. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, v'es kol dam apar yishbech. He takes the entire dam and he spills it. Ask the Gemara, hold it. We're learning that Kabbalah, for the sake of Zrika, needs to be preferably on the entire supply. But this pasuk that you have just quoted is not speaking about that. Yishbech means he spills out the leftover blood after the Zrika, whatever's left over. And how could you apply that to the halacha of Kabbalah? But b'shirayim ksiv. Says the Gemara, well, in the shirayim, it can't be used for shirayim. This pasuk cannot be telling you have to spill out the entire blood supply at that stage of the process, because the halase l'kulei dam, you certainly no longer have the entire supply. It's already after, you take the blood of Kabbalah, you apply it to the mizbeach with zrika or hazah, depending on on the carbon. So inevitably, some of it has been removed. You no longer have the entire original supply. So when the pasuk speaks about spilling out the leftovers after the zrika and calls it kol hadam, apparently it's not really going on that stage of the process. And that's the rule, that when we have a pasuk which can't be applied, in a certain instance, we apply it where it could be applied. And therefore, Tnei in the Kabbalah, we apply it to the halacha of Kabbalah, that there, by Kabbalah, you're meant to be Kabbalah the entire supply. Amar v'dam hashma hashaychet. So during the shechita, tzarech sheyagbia sakan lamal. When you're done the shechita, quickly lift your knife up and away. Why? Lest blood drip off the knife and mix with the regular blood and go into the kli. And that blood which dripped off the knife is unsuitable, because it's not dam hanefesh, it doesn't represent the life force of the animal. Shnamar b'lokach midam hapar. He's meant to take only dam of the par, which we learned before means dam hanefesh. We learned midam hapar with the barach, as opposed to the proper dam mixed in with other elements. Says the Gemara, v'dam hasaken b'may mikanech leisa. How does he clean? How does he wipe off the knife? Amar Rabbi b'sfas mizrak. Scrapes off the top of the container. And that's why it's called Kippurei Zahav. They're called Kippur, like Yom Kippurim. Cleanses, wipes away. Because the kohen would use it to clean off his knife. Taisa said it's not practical to use the animal. Like, why does he just wipe it off the, on the animal? He says the knife will get full of hair and wouldn't be suitable for, future use. Amar Chizdam Rav Yirmiyah Ba'ab. HaShoichet, after the shechita, tzorach sheyitein vriden v'toich hakli. He should run the arteries into the kli, because otherwise, if the arteries are here, squirting out the blood, and then he puts the kli nearby, and the blood sort of squirts out and passes through the airspace until it gets to the airspace of the kli. And that's an issue, because it's not considered direct collection from the par, which is required. So you have the kli here, and you position the neck of the animal right above the kli. You can't, Rashi says you can't put the arteries in the kli. It's not practical. I mean, you have a big animal with a neck. So you position the neck of the animal directly above the kli, so that at least you shorten the trip. And as soon as the blood squirts out of the arteries, their trajectory carries them above the airspace of a kli, and then it angles down and lands in the kli. So it starts above the kli, and then it angles down into the airspace of the kli, and finally lands in the bottom of the kli. Itmar nami, we learn likewise, Amar Rasim Rabbi Yechanan, reading the arteries of the animal, tzorach sheyira aver kli, they must be positioned in a manner where they face the airspace of the kli. Rabbi Asi, Rabbi Yechanan. Here comes an interesting question. So Rabbi Asi was one who quoted Rabbi Yechanan in terms of the proper positioning of the arteries. Now he asked Rabbi Yechanan a question in that regard. Pretty unusual case. Hayim Makabel. Okay, so he's engaged in collection of the dam, and he has the arteries positioned above the airspace of the kli. Fine. V'nivchasu shulei mizrak. And suddenly the bottom of the mizrak, of the container, bottomed out. Just, apparently it was worn out and it just fell apart on him. And there goes the bottom of the kli. It bottomed out. And it happened, actually, adam, before the blood arrived, la'avir, mizrak. It has yet to arrive into the internal airspace of the kli. So it did travel above it, and it was slated to come down and land, but hadn't yet entered the actual airspace of the mizrak. It passed through the airspace above the mizrach and was about to head down. Now Rashi says certainly if the blood had already arrived into the internal airspace of the kli, that's okay. That's done. Kabbalah has been accomplished. Even if the kli bottomed out and it just landed on the floor, you just collect the dam again. That's the halacha. If the dam was collected and spilled out, you can recollect it. But here, it never got to the actual airspace. It was still above. It was in the aver, the airspace above the a kli. And it bottomed out, and then it squirted down, it never landed in the kli. There's no kli. What's the halach? Mao. So here's an example of avir, airspace, above the kli, she'ein sofer lenuach. Which turns out that really didn't have potential for landing. Because while it was still in that airspace above the kli bottomed out. Kimunach tami, shall we still consider that material, the blood, hovering above that kli, which then bottomed out, as though it landed in the kli, because airspace above a kli is already considered sort of in the kli's domain. The kli's domain extends upwards, right? Like airspace above a country, right? The airspace relates to the entity beneath it. And therefore, let's treat it as though it already landed in the kli, and it's okay. Or shall we say no? Yeah, if it got into the airspace of the kli itself inside, fine. But if it's still in the aver above the kli, that's not considered landed. In which case, since the thing bottomed out, never actually got there, so just being in that airspace itself is not sufficient. That was his question. Aver she'ein sofer lenuach. What is the status? Kimunach tami or not? So again, we're speaking about a case where the arteries were positioned above the kli. The blood squirted out, first a bit, horizontally, and then it was about to come down vertically into the airspace of the kli and then land on the bottom of the kli. Now, as Rashi explains, obviously if it lands in the kli inside and then spills out, it's fine. Even if it enters the actual internal airspace of the kli, mission accomplished. Here, it was still hovering above the airspace of the kli, which we call avir kli. And at that early stage, the kli bottomed out. So it never got a chance to really land. It got to the aver, but the aver was ein sofer lenuach. It didn't have potential for landing. What's the halacha? Amalei, he says, Tanisu, we have a brisa, which will address this type of scenario. Chaviz shemunachas tachas atzinek. So we have a fellow trying to fill up his container, his canteen, for paraduma water. He would have to draw it straight out of the spring. Pasuk says, Mayim chaim al keli, fresh spring water, straight into the kli. And similar to the halacha of Kabbalas Adam, which necessitates a direct collection from the animal into the kli, likewise, paraduma water needs to be directly collected. A direct Kabbalah from the spring, the fresh spring water, could be a flow of water, but it has to be fresh spring water, directly into the kli without any intermediaries, without any go-betweens. Maim chaim el keli. So now there was a chav, a barrel, which had been sitting beneath this pipe, which was bringing water from the spring. Chaviz shemunachas tachas hazinuk. The zinuk is this flow, this pipe, and the chaviz, the barrel, was standing beneath it. Now he couldn't allow the water to go into the barrel, but then it becomes pasul for paraduma. So he quickly runs over with his little container to grab that water before it lands in the chaviz. Ma'im shebaseicha, water which entered his container within the airspace of the actual barrel. So you have this pipe coming off the mountain. You have the barrel here. Now the water is shooting out of the pipe, again, horizontally, and then ultimately landing in the chaviz. So he runs over with his container to intercept some water. If he's already in, if he inserts his container into the airspace of the barrel and catches the water in the airspace of the barrel, inside the airspace, it's possible. Because once that water reaches the interior of the barrel, even though it hadn't yet landed on the bottom of the barrel, but it was in the interior space of the barrel, it's already collected in the barrel. Too late. Mayim shebeseicha, the water which he catches, which he intercepts within the interior of the barrel, is certainly no good. Likewise, even if he intercepts water which is still hovering above the airspace of the barrel. So it's called the aver, right? The aver means the airspace above the interior of the barrel. Again, that relates to the barrel. It's too late. It is deemed received by the barrel. Doesn't work for paraduma water. However, tziref pialazinik. Let's say there's no trajectory, there's no water flying horizontally and then coming down vertically. Suppose the barrel was put flush to the pipe, okay? So basically, you have water running through the pipe, which now sort of runs over the barrel, but then it drops straight into the barrel. There's no middle point there. It's in the pipe, and part of the pipe is above the barrel, okay, but it's still in the pipe. It doesn't relate to the barrel, it's in the pipe. But then as soon as it leaves the pipe, it's in the barrel. Tziraf pil is inuk. And now he's trying to intercept some of that water in his canteen. So the water which is already in the interior of the barrel is possible. But water which is still outside the barrel, in the pipe, that's okay. Even though it's above the airspace of the barrel, it doesn't matter because it's in the pipe. And therefore it's deemed safe. So we see from here that, in the first case we see that the water which was hovering, floating above the barrel, relates to the barrel. You can't take it anymore for mayim of paraduma. So that shows that aver is kimunach dami, airspace considered like landed in the kli beneath it. Says the Gemara, what do you mean to compare? We asked one thing, we spoke about airspace above a kli, whose kli bottomed out. There's no potential for landing. He was speaking about a barrel which is full, whole, and intact. Of course that's considered to have landed. He has where to go. He relates to the entity beneath him because he has where to go. What's the connection? Rav Asi addressed Rabbi Yochanan a question regarding aver she'ein sof l'nuach, airspace which has no potential for landing. Because Pashlan responded to him with an answer about aver she'ein l'nuach, airspace which has potential for landing. How could he prove one from the other? Answers the Gemara, you're right. He asked him both things. He asked him two questions. First, aver that has no potential to land. And even if you'll say, in that case, it doesn't work, what about if it's a regular aver, where he has where to go? And on that, he responded from the story of the paraduma water. So there was question A and question B, and he resolved question B. If you say, if you hold, if you'll tell me aver she'ein sof l'nuach, the aver which has no way to go, lav kimunach dami is not considered to have landed, like in the case of the mizrak which bottomed out. Since the dam which was floating above that mizrak and has yet to enter the mizrak discovers he has nowhere to go, you can't consider that to be contained in the mizrak. So if that's the case, lav kimunach dami, what about question B? Aver she'seif l'nuach mai. What if the airspace has where to go? And the response to that was, well, take a look at the story of the paraduma water. You have aver over the chavis, which has where to go. It connects to the chavis, it identifies with the chavis, and is puzzled for paraduma use. So that was one version of this event. Rav Yosef Masni Hachi, that was Rav Yosef's version. Rav Kahana, however, Masni had a different version, chavis b'yminei. There was never a question regarding blood of the carbon. Initially, he had asked him a question regarding water floating above a chavis, regarding its suitability for paraduma, or pashat lechavis, and in fact, that's how he responded from the story of chavis. Rabbi Masni Chavis, Rabbi had a different version, a third version. He asked him regarding the story of the chavis, what would happen in such a case? That was his question, the pashat lemizrak. And in fact, he responded to him by resolving his question from your everyday Kabbalah Hadam and the Beis Mikdash. Mizrach was his answer. What does that mean? He says, look, you want to know if the spring water is floating above the barrel, can I snatch it at this point? Or is it too late? I can prove you a question from every day in the Beis HaMikdash. Mizrach, the container, which is used to collect the blood of the carbon. Let's picture it. What happens? So he has the arteries facing the Mizrach. Okay? Now, inevitably, there's going to be some trajectory. There's going to be some section where the blood is airborne, right? Across and then down into the Kli. It's just the way it works. It squirts across with power, with force, right? So the arteries are right next to the Kli or like slightly above it, but the blood is not going to just drop straight into the Kli. It's going to come across over the airspace of the Kli and then into the Kli. Now, why is that considered directness? How are you fulfilling the requirement of dam mehapar? That requires it to do a direct collection from the par. It's going through the airspace first. Apparently, airspace above a proper Kli relates to the Kli below. It's considered to having entered the Kli below it. There you go. There's your answer. Likewise, spring water floating above that chavis, too late. It connects to the chavis, you can't use it. So that was his point. Wouldn't you agree with me about the case of the Mizrach, the container collecting the blood in the Beis HaMikdash? You can't have it without some sort of airborne section, which is considered the avir of the Mizrach below it. And apparently it's considered connected to Kli below it, which makes it a direct Kabbalah. Okay, so in conclusion, we learn about being Mekabel directly from the par, preferably the entire Dam HaNefesh. Ensure that the dripping knife is out of the way. Direct the arteries over the Kli. And it's still called a direct Kabbalah, because Aver of a proper Kli, Kli Dami. Regarding Aver She'en Seif L'Nuach, that was his question, which wasn't really resolved. Tanan Hassam. Okay, over to the story of the halacha of paraduma water. So you have a flow of fresh water running down a mountain, and he's going to try to direct it towards his container. Nasan Yoda Iragloi. He placed his hand or his foot to divert the water into his container. Oyali Irakis, or some leaves, some vegetables which are susceptible to tumah. Right, a person's mekabel tumah. Vegetables are, so you can't use it in this process. So he puts it there to direct the water into the barrel. Psulim. The water is puzzle because there was some sort of item. The item that was involved in this process, in assisting and diverting the water, is susceptible to tumah. What about alei kanim, balei goizim, just random leaves, reed leaves, leaves of a nut tree, inedible stuff. So these are not mekabel tumah, ksheira. So that water is okay. Zaklal, okay, this is the rule. Davar mekabel tumah, something which is susceptible to tumah, like food, like people. Psul cannot be used in this effort. Davar she'en mekabel tumah, however, ksheira, okay. How do we know that this is a factor? When you make your mikveh, yatar. Use only items and equipment that are resistant to tumah. Whether it's making a mikveh, whether it's collecting water for paraduma, it has to be fashioned with tumah-resistant paraphernalia. Havayasan, their creation, ay tahara, tehei, must be through tahara only. Amar B'chibar, Amar B'yechan. Zaysemeres, we learn from here. Aver kli dami, the fact that water which had been diverted by his hand are considered unsuitable for paraduma water, despite the fact, we're assuming, that the water is still got some room to travel till it gets into the barrel. So he's sort of directing the water, and it flows, and then it takes off, right? It's airborne into the then lands into the Kli. That the aver over the Kli, aver Kli dam, is considered like the Kli itself. In which case, it is as though he has diverted it directly into the kli. Remember, the point here is you can't use your hand to collect paraduma water. So something which is makabel tuma cannot really be used for collection of paraduma water, right? So you have this flow, right? This gush of water, this waterfall, and you put your hand, your foot, to divert the water's direction to get it, flowing towards your kli. We're assuming that the water keeps on, flying, even past the hand, and then it ends up in the kli. So basically, you're out of the way. The hand that was used to divert is already out of the picture. The water is flowing and flying and then lands in the kli. So why do we have to reckon with his hand? His hand wasn't the final say. It didn't happen through his hand. His hand is forgotten long ago. Rashi says, for instance, let's say there's a pipe of water, spring water, and he runs his hand 50 feet away, okay, before the end of the pipe, and then it flows 50 feet and lands into a barrel. That's okay. Havayosna Yetahara means the final collection must be free of any tumah related item. So once again, sure, he diverted it, he directioned it, but then it floated through. There was some airborne section, and then it landed in the kli. So ignore his hand. There's some errors. We learn from here. Aver kli kli dami. The airspace above the kli is considered as though the item had already entered the kli. So it's as though it went directly from his hand into the kli, and that's why it's possible. How do you know? Who says the water is airborne at all? Maybe it goes drops straight from his hand into the directly, down into the kli. It drips right down. Amalei Tardi says, Tardi called him shoite boho. Not a very complimentary term. He says, you're being haphazard. Look at the lashon of the Mishnah, of the Brisa. He's placing his hand so that the water is yavru, would be diverted to the barrel. Apparently, there's some diversion. There's still some distance for it to travel over the airspace into the barrel. And the fact that we disqualify the water indicates that airspace is deemed an extension of the barrel beneath it, in which case it was directly from his hand to the barrel, and it's considered to have been fashioned by his hand, which is makabel tumah. We have a Mishnah in Masechas Parah that we just quoted. But you should know this is one of the Ediyos. It's actually a Mishnah in Ediyos. It's a Masechta which has a collection of various testimonies, various halachas. This one was presented by Rabbi Tzaddik. This requirement to have only tumah-resistant items involved. The Snan Heid Rabbi Tzaddik, Allah Zoichlin, he testified regarding this, gush of water, Shekilchan Balei Goizin Shenkher, which was directed and diverted by using benign materials, leaves of a nut tree. That's okay. So Hamas, in fact, this was a story that took place by Aliyah in this town regarding water which was diverted using this type of method. And the story was presented to the Sanhedrin, and the Lishkas HaGazes and the Beis HaMikdash, V'chshiruhu, and they certified the water. Amar B'Zeir Amar Rebbe, Amar B'Yichnan, Hatzoyrim Oizna Par, V'achachach Kibel Dam. So after the shchita on the par, on the cow, he clipped off some of his hair, which would technically make it a blemished animal. But now it's after the shchita. Any harm done? He says, yeah. If he did it between the shchita and the Kabbalah, it's possible. Hatzoyrim oizen apar v'achakach kibodami possible. You know why? Because the animal has to remain whole and intact all throughout. Through the Kabbalah. Shenamar v'lokach dam apar. Kabbalah has to be from the dam of the par, that par, the original par, unaltered. Par shayikfar. Okay, ashkan kachi kachim. So this tells us that kachi kachim, the highest level of karbanos, which is the subject material of this pasuk, speaking about the paral and davar shel tzibur, has this requirement. Kachim kal menalan. What about the karbanos on the lower level, of the lower category, like a shlomim? How do we know they also have this requirement? Amarava tani bava pasuk braysa regarding the carbon pesach, which is kachim kalam. It says zeh tamim zachar ben shana. It has to be unblemished. It has to be ben shana, within the first year of its birth. So we learn she tamim uben shana b'shah shchita. It has to be a tamim, unblemished. It has to be the right age during the shchita. Right? So the pasuk starts off tachoiso alaseh. Right? It has to be shechted in this manner. Right? So the pasuk prior to this is tachoiso alaseh. So shchita has this requirement. What about b'kabbalah, during the kabbalah? B'hoilach, b'zrika. What about during those stages of the process? Minayin, how do we know that these standards are applied there too? Talmud Laimar. The pasuk continues, Yiyeh. All it's doing is all it's making. Kol Yosef. Its entire process. L'yu alatam uben shana has to be when it's unblemished and within the first year of its birth. Okay, so we know that even Kachim Kalam has this requirement. On both accounts. It has to be intact, unblemished throughout, and also a year old. Eisvi Abai is a kash. How could you say that the carbon pesach or any carbon has to remain fully intact all throughout the process until zrika? Rabbi Shoimer calls Zevachim. Any carbon Shabbat shenishtayer men kazayis basar, kazayis chaylev, zerek sadam. Even if there's not much left over, something went missing, it got burned, destroyed. As long as there's a kazayis of the basar or a kazayis of the chaylev, you can do zrika. Clearly, even if there's just a minute amount of the carbon left. I mean, it says alter as you get, it's gone. It's still okay. Tirguma ben Shana says Abaye. He tells Rabbi, look, apply your halacha, your braysa, that has this requirement for the Kabbalah, the Zrika, and the halacha, only in terms of the age. But in terms of the alteration issue, that's not an issue. So as long as it's there during the Kabbalah, fully intact, it's okay. But regarding halacha and Zrika, even if it's altered or missing, that's okay, as long as it's within the first year. Says the Gemara, how could you have a situation during the shchita, it's properly aged, and b'shas halacha was zrika ben shtayim, and at the point of halacha, which is a couple of minutes later, was zrika, it's past his first birthday. How do you? It's the same day. Amarava, yes, there's a meris. We learn from here. Shois, even hours, can impact a carbon, can change his age. Shois poisels b'kachim. So regarding karbonis, we calculate hours, not days. So say he was born 3 o'clock last year, Erev Pesach, and now it's 4 o'clock next year of Pesach. That's it. Expired. You have to make sure that all 4 steps of the process, of the Akrava process, Shchita, Kabbalah, Elach, and Zrika, will take place while it's still properly aged. Okay, so in conclusion, we learned that the animal has to be intact throughout the Kabbalah, but no more. In terms of age appropriate, that has to extend all the way till the Zrika. Okay, let's recap today's daf. If the blood came squirting out of the animal directly on the floor, it's possible. It has to be directly contained in a kli. Without any interruption, any intermediaries. It can't even be dripping from the sakin. He has to direct the arteries over the kli, so it goes directly into the kli. So we learned that the dam, which had entered the internal airspace of the kli, is considered collected. What about above this airspace? It is as well. We learned that from the story of the chavis, of the paraduma water. What about if it's above the airspace, but then the kli bottomed out, never actually landed in the kli? Is it a lachli niskabil, in which case you can collect from the floor, or perhaps it's not considered have been collected, we left that a little bit unresolved. You can only use items, materials which are not makabel tuma in the process of collecting the paraduma water. We learned about keeping the animal intact all throughout the shchita and the Kabbalah. All the best to you and atzlachara.